Trading with a stop loss, good idea or bad idea? Now everyone tells you to trade with a stop loss, the most important thing you do. But I'm going to tell you a story now that will probably change your opinion on this subject. So yeah, everyone tells you to trade with a stop loss. When I started my trading some 5 or 6 years ago, it was drilled into me from day one as a beginner to always trade with a stop loss. Now, if you don't know what stop loss is, which you probably do if you're watching this video, it's basically a tool that protects your capital. So let's say, for instance, you buy your USD at 150, you have a stop loss at 140, okay? If the price goes against you down to 140, where your stop loss is, it will instantly kill the trade. So if the trade hits your stop loss, it kills the trade, and you've only lost what your stop loss is, what your risk is. So basically, you're not actually risking your entire account if you're using a stop loss. You're only risking whatever you set your stop loss as. So when people say, you can lose all your money in trading, if you're using a stop loss, no, you can't. And the good advantage about a stop loss as well is your risk reward ratio. So you work out where your stop loss is going to go, you work out how much you're going to risk on this trade, and then you look at your reward for that trade. So let's say, for instance, you're risking £100 to make a £200 reward or profit. So, using a stop loss is an extremely good thing, and it is the most important thing to have in trading. Everyone teaches you it. I teach it my members. I use a stop loss. It is the foundations of trading. The first thing you do before you place a trade is work out how much you're going to risk per trade, and then look at the reward that trade's going to give you, and is the reward greater than the risk. Now, here's an interesting story. So I go down London quite often, and in my early days when I used to go down as a beginner, I used to go down with an open eye. I used to look at all these institutional traders, and I was fascinated with the way they trade. What's your strategy? Tell me your secret, just give me some pointers on how to become more successful. But over the years, as I've got a bit more experience, become a bit more successful on the charts, I've kind of come up to their level now, and I've seen the way they trade. I've not gone down as a beginner now, and I've kind of gone down, throwing ideas backwards and forth with each other, which is really good. When you actually go, as a beginner, and meet an institutional trader, it's very fascinating, and you take on a lot that they tell you. But, as time goes on, you get more experience, you kind of go on to their level as well, and you end up giving the advice back down to the beginners, that are below you. Anyway, I was on this trading floor, and we were throwing some ideas backwards and forth, and he was showing me a couple of setups. Now, I'll give you an example, okay? This is a broker, okay, and they have their own set of traders there for investments. So let's say you want to invest some money into this broker, they will trade the money on their behalf. They're also liquidity providers as well, an extremely large firm. I'm not going to tell you their name, but yeah, I was on this trading floor, and we were going over some setups and ideas, and he was showing me a setup that he'd gone through, and I asked the question. I said, "Oh, that's a nice little setup. Where's your stop loss?" And he said to me, "Oh, we don't use stop losses." And the moment he said that, I was like, "Hey, you don't use a stop loss?" He's like, "No, we don't use stop losses, Jamie." And at that point, I'm sitting there going, "Hang on here. You are trading six-figure trading accounts, other people's money, and you're telling me you're risking the entire account to win a trade. You're not using a stop loss." And do you know what he said to me? He put his hand on my shoulder and said, "When the market will never move enough to blow your account, Jamie, only then you'll own the market." And you can imagine what I'm thinking now. What are you going on about? So let me get this straight. You're trading a six-figure trading account, and you're not using a stop loss. And let me explain to you what he told me. He said, "Jamie, okay, the reason why we don't trade with a stop losses is because we use such low risk when placing trades." Okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, imagine you had a £100 million trading account. What's 1% of that, Jamie? And I went, £1 million. He went, "Exactly. What's 0.1% of 100 million? And I went, 100 grand. He said, exactly. Is 100 grand a lot of money to you? And I went, yes, a lot of money for anyone, really. He said, but in the grand scale of things, when you compare it to a £100 million trading account, it's not a lot. It's not even 1%. It's 0.1%. Okay, so we can afford to not trade with a stop loss because we target 50 grand, 100 grand trades. That's our kind of take profit area, right? So if we have a trade that goes 200,000 or 300 or 500,000 pound in drawdown, it's not even 1% of our accounts, Jamie. We're not even worrying. The market, he was saying on EURUSD, for example, on EURUSD does not move enough in a year to ever worry about them worrying about having not trading without a stop loss. And I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, when you look at it like that, it is so true, And he was saying to me, he said, look, okay, we would never ever worry about trading. We take our trades, okay, and we don't trade without a stop loss because we're using such low risk that the market would never move against us enough to ever worry us. We might get a 1% or 2% drawdown, if that, okay, but still that's not enough to ever us to get worried. And he also said to me as well, and if it ever did happen, we would just sell against ourselves. We would just dump a load of money in the market, move the price back down, and we would close our trades. Okay, a bit like a stop loss hunt or a market maker. We would manipulate the market to get ourselves out of trouble. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like mind blown, why did I not ever think of that? And he said to me, do you know what he said? It gets even better. He said to me, Jamie, who invented the stop loss? Okay, and who taught you to trade with a stop loss? Okay, it was the institutional traders that came up with the stop loss, the brokers, okay, the bankers, the institutional companies. The reason they have stop losses is because they want your money. What? And he said to me, why would I want to have a trade that gets stop loss hit and then for me to give my money to my competition? Think about it, okay? If I take a trade and it hits my stop loss of 300 grand, let's say, I'm giving that money to my competition. And all they're doing is manipulating the market makers, to take out my trade. So I ultimately give my money to them. And why would I want to do that? Okay, that's why I don't trade with a stop loss. It's the people that teach you to trade with a stop loss are the people at the top. Okay, all this training and ideas you trade with a stop loss gets filtered down to retail traders, okay, and beginners to trade with a stop loss. But ultimately what you're doing is you're just giving the money back to the brokers, back to the institutional companies, back to the brokers. That's all you're doing. Okay, and this is why when we have such large trading accounts, Jamie, as he said, we don't use stop losses. Okay, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, like, when you actually think about it, it's true. And don't get me wrong, okay, trading a stop loss, okay, there's people make money with trading with a stop loss, okay, it's not impossible. Loads of people make money trading with a stop loss. It's there to protect your account. But when you use that principle of such low risk trading that you never need to kind of worry about your account being blown, okay, for example, right, you can bring this principle down to £1 million account, £100,000 account, a £50,000 account, even £1,000 account, okay, if you using micro lots, let's say, right, if you bring that concept and idea down, okay, because what in essence they are doing is they are using their strategy, right, and a whole point of a stop loss, let's say, is there for market makers and brokers to take you out. Okay, so if you don't use the stop loss, okay, you're not giving your money back to the broker. Okay, and what you're doing is you are, in a way, getting yourself out positions, okay? I mean, for example, let me just grab my phone and I'll show you, okay? Right, so I'm just going to show you my trading results using this. I'm trading an institutional account at the minute, okay? And you will notice I'm not actually using a stop loss on this account. Now, again, I'm using the same principles as they are. This account is a £100,000 account, and it is now sitting at, let me just have a look, okay? There we go. It is now sitting at, you can see, £152,000. Okay, now again, the principle with this is I would the account sitting at 152,000, right? So £52,000 of that is profit. So I'm risking my profit before my actual investment. Okay, so if I went into a 20 grand drawdown, for instance, I'm not even risking my my initial capital. All I'm risking is my profit. It would have to go into a £54,000 drawdown before I go into my actual initial starting capital of 100 grand. Okay, now if you trade such a low risk trade and you use market knowledge, okay, you can actually get yourself out of these positions. You take a trade, okay, and a stop loss hunter would drive up the price, take everyone's stop losses out, and then what you do is you just sell at the top again and you just ride the price back down. And it was fascinating, truly fascinating, with the idea of why these institutional companies do not trade, or this particular company does not use a stop loss. Because like they said, that the market would never move enough for them to blow their account. Okay, and when you look at it like that, that is when you probably truly own the market. Okay, so trading with a stop loss, is it a good idea or is it a bad idea? I mean, there's both, there's answers and goods and positives to both situations. Trading with a stop loss is good because you're protecting your initial count, but the downside is if there are a lot of people that will manipulate the market, will take out your trades, and you will be giving your money back to the broker. And then on the plus side of not using a stop loss, again, that's not going to happen, but then you are risking your entire account. But again, if you use a very low risk strategy and money management, you can be sure to make some decent profits. And in fact, that's the reason why the Mogwai strategy works so well, because in fact we don't use a stop loss, and funny enough, all the BNE members start having huge success. Okay, you're risking your entire account for trading, but at the end of the day, that's why you put money in trading anyway, to risk that money. And if you're not comfortable to afford to risk that kind of money, you shouldn't be trading in the first place. So yes, I hope you enjoyed that video.